What is up, everyone? This is T-Mold16 here, and what I'm going to be doing today is I am going to be giving you guys a tutorial for my second channel, T-Mold Designs. Now, in this channel, this is where I'm posting all my tutorials and everything, obviously, but I figured I'd do a little bit of an After Effects tutorial. I'll let that open up in the background as I show you guys the inspiration of where I got this. So first of all, this is basically what we're going to be doing today. Very simple effect, but very effective at the same time. Now, where I got my inspiration for this is from this little motion graphic thing right here. Whoops. So basically that was where I got the inspiration and the knowledge to do so, or something similar, came from this tutorial from Andrew Kramer's Video Copilot. And this might look familiar if you have seen Reckless Tortuga. He did, I take it, it looks exactly like their intro, so I guess they stole it from him, or he used their, not didn't really steal it, but he used their tutorial. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up a new project, and then we're going to go New Composition, Command N. We're just going to call this tutorial for my sake. You guys can call it whatever. The width is 920 by 1080. That's the standard high definition, full HD, whatever. 30 frames per second, and we're just going to make it 10 seconds long. Okay, for some reason that didn't add a background, so I'm going to add a solid. And I'm going to make it a little bit of an off grade, D1, 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 if you guys were wondering. Okay, so now that we have that all set up, go Command I to import. Now you guys, this is a part where I'm not going to show in this tutorial, but if you guys want to do this effect and do it somewhat effectively, go into Photoshop, make your logo. You can do this with pictures or whatever it is that you might want, but take it into Photoshop and resize it so that it fits into your project size. So like 1080, my phone's vibrating, 1080 by 720 or 920 by 1080. So make your canvas on Photoshop that big, and then save it as a PNG, and then it's going to ask you if you want it none or interlaced. You want to make it interlaced so that it saves with no background. I'll actually write all that in the description below. So we're going to import that I already have. I'm going to drag it above my light gray solid, and there you have Cloud Films, my computer group thing for school. And what we're going to do here is a very simple effect. We're going to go into our effects and presets and then search CC Ball. CC Ball Action, you're going to double click that. That's going to apply the effect. And mess around with the grid spacing and things as you wish. And then if you have any sort of text or anything in it too, you can see that it gets distorted, so be careful when you're designing what you want on here. Okay, so now that we have that, we're going to put a keyframe for scatter, that little stopwatch thing right there, rotation, and twist angle. So this is what is basically going to make our thing move all funky and cool like that. But before we get into any of that, what we want to do is layer new, adjustment layer, And on this adjustment layer, we're going to search fast blur. It's going to be right there. We're not going to do anything quite yet with that, but first let's go back to our animated logo copy. Bring down this little drop down menu, go into transform, put a keyframe at the beginning of your timeline for scale, and then we're just going to scale it up nice and big. Okay, and then we're going to go down to, let's say, 2 seconds, and then we're just going to bring this all back down to 100%. So that's a 2-second animation of our thing zooming out. I did little air quotations there. You could do this with using the 3D tool, but I'm not going to get into that right now. Okay, so now that we see, you can see our little keyframes down here. Now we're going to go to our adjustment layer, go to the very first keyframe, and remember how we applied that fast blur? We're going to just crank that fast blur up a bit. Let's say, I think 60 should be good. And now we're going to go to the end, so at that almost 2-second or 2-second mark, we're going to bring it back all the way down to 0. So it seems like it's coming into focus as it goes down into the canvas. So now we're not going to do much with that adjustment layer for now. So now we're going to come back to the animated logo copy, and we are going to go to the beginning again, sorry, and we're going to make sure the scatter is set quite high, just so it kind of looks like balls. See, so now you can see when it comes in there, it's all scattered about, obviously. And now we can add a nice rotation to it. I like to just grab that and rotate it around, rotate that the opposite way. Honestly, there's nothing much for me to really tell you right now, but it's basically just trying out what you want to do. We're going to rotate that back there. You can bring the scatter down a little bit now that we're at that 2, because we already set keyframes for all that. So if we go down to our effects drop down menu, it's going to go down to CC ball. You can see that there's already keyframes being set all right in there. You hit the tilde key and that'll bring up a full screen there. The tilde key is actually a little squiggly next to the 1. So I'm going to bring that down quite a bit, maybe to about, I like 60, 59, whatever. And now we're going to go down to like 5, or let's go right about there. And then we're going to put a nice rotation on this again. Put another rotation on it the other way, 3 times around. We're going to come down a little bit more. Rotate it back. We're eventually going to make our way back to... Oh, geez, I did terrible right there. Whoops. This is going to look bad, guys. Okay, let's go back into here. I messed up. So you can change this to get a little more fluent playthrough. We can kind of see what's going on right now. It's coming into focus. You can see that the whole thing's rotating. Alright, so now at this point, I'm going to drag that out because that seems way too fast. Okay, so right here, we're going to come back down to like 8 seconds. And then we're just going to bring everything back to 0. And then that should hopefully and gradually... Alright, well, we're going to set the scatter back to 0. And that should make everything come somewhat into focus. Let's see. Yeah, you can see that it's going like that. It always gives it a nice little twirly. Okay, so what you want to do here now is we can minimize that, minimize all that crap. We're going to come back to, we're going to hit T, and that's going to bring up the opacity, and we're going to set a keyframe on the animated logo property just before it fully flips and comes frontal with the screen. So it's still in rotation, and we're going to set a keyframe there, and then just come forward a bit to where it does just stop its animation, and then we're going to drop that down to 0. Okay, now come back over here to the project tab and drag in your animated logo again. Now drag it all the way down to here, so that if we come here, we're going to go right there, and make sure it's at the end. It's at the beginning of the first keyframe on your first animated logo. Okay. So now we're going to minimize that. Whoops. Come into the new animated logo. Come down to transform, or hit T for opacity rather, sorry. We're going to set a keyframe at the very beginning and set the opacity all the way down to 0. And then again, we're just going to try and find the end of that animation. Whoops, not the end of the entire animation. And then bring it all the way back up to 100%. So now if we do a quick playthrough of that, it's going to keep spinning, spinning, come in, and that's going to fade in. And it's going to look, if you play with it enough, it's going to look almost flawless. If you get the fade times fast enough or slow enough. And then basically what we're going to do in this last second here, I realize that this whole project could have been a little bit longer, maybe like 15 seconds or something like that. But then we're going to fade out the new animated logo, the one that doesn't have the CC ball distortion on it. We're going to set a new keyframe about a second or a few seconds before that, and then we're going to set another keyframe down here, and we're going to fade it out now. Fade it all the way out. And now we're going to come down to the one with the CC ball action, I think is what it was called. And we're going to find that, whoops, let's come back here and hit this back tool to go to the very first keyframe. And then we're going to do the exact opposite and fade in the balls. So now we're going to go to opacity, and we're going to set a one for scale too, because it's going to grow. Then come back to the animated logo, and then go to the next keyframe. So that's going to bring our timeline automatically to the next keyframe there. And then we're going to set a keyframe there, and then we're going to scale it way back up and turn the opacity way back up. Then you're going to see it's going to kind of come at you again. So it started the whole thing coming in, now it's going to go back out. Alright, so let's come back over here, open up CC ball, and then we're going to make a new keyframe. So let's open this up, minimize that, bring down CC ball, and then we're going to set a new keyframe. See how you can kind of see those two fading in and out of each other? And then find the end of that again. And then we're going to go to the next keyframe up here where it's coming at you, remember, at the end. And we're just going to crank up the scatter. Maybe too much. Let's do 150. 150 looks pretty good, I think. So let's look at that. Stays static and it comes at you. We want to make sure this goes for the entire length of it. kind of see how it explodes. Obviously this is going a little fast, but make it a little longer in your composition. Now we're going to come back to this adjustment layer to give it that same depth of field, and then we're going to find where it starts to come at you. So it starts just before 9, I'd say. Whoops. So let's start it right there, and then we're going to apply a new, come to effects, fast blur, then we're going to set a new keyframe there till the very end, and then just crank it up. It'll automatically put in a keyframe for you. What do we have before 60? There you go. Then there's your basic little animated logo that you guys could do. Let's just do a quick RAM preview right here. You can obviously play with all the twists and all the little gizmos that you can switch around, and then it's going to come up and fade to white or whatever it is. So actually I'll show you guys how to quickly render. So what we're going to do, we're going to go into composition, add to render queue, and that's going to bring up your render queue tab down here, and then you can do quality best, the size that's already going to be in there, full resolution. Don't really have to bother this, but use the comps frame rate, make sure you do that. Keep everything else pretty basic, and then output module you can set for the quick time or whatever. I'm just going to do MPEG 4 because it's small and fast. And you don't really have to mess with anything else. And then you can set what you want to name it, if you want to rename it, and where you want to save it to right here. Okay guys, and then you click render, and then it'll start your render. Thank you for watching my second tutorial on this channel. I'm sorry that I haven't been maintaining it as I should, but thank you guys again very much. I'll see you guys later. TeamOld16 out.